So I'm just going to take that and post it up in there, and then I'll explain to you why I used certain aspects and what the purpose is of each of those. Alright, so the first thing that we have is our table class. That's the main table right here. So that's going to be your whole thing. And we got to make sure we add our footer. And all the way down there, and then you can see that ends the table. So we're going to save that, and then we're going to go back, and that's what it's going to look like. You're probably saying, wow, I didn't really learn anything, I just kind of copied the code. Well, hold on to your horses. I'm copying this so that you guys can see it. Okay, so that's what it looks like, and I don't really know what I'm doing in Photoshop right now. I'm recording the voiceover while I do this, and you're going to see me fiddle around with a bunch of stuff. But basically what I want you to learn from this is what sections are covered by what in the sidebar. So what I'm highlighting right now, this big yellow space, is the first section. So you have your table, and then you have a TR, and you have a TD, and it says TD call span equals 2. And so if you look, you can see how the banner and the navigation spans over two sections. It spans over the part where the board is, where you can see board statistics, and it also spans over the heading in the sidebar. So it's spanning two columns. So you have that TD that spans two columns, and then you have a column on one side and you have a column on another side. Okay, so right now I'm figuring out how to kind of highlight that for you. Now if you go down here, I'm going to highlight which part that yellow part refers to. So all of that is the coding for the call span 2, for that big chunk right at the top. So now I'm going to show you what part refers to the actual board. This is a total of 700 pixels wide. The part that I showed you before, that top section, that's 900 pixels, and then the sidebar is 200 pixels. Now, if you want, you can change those numbers. I mean, my sidebar isn't set in stone, especially if you want to change it up a little bit for your own uses. I don't have a problem with that. So, I mean, if you want to make the sidebar a little bit narrower, some people like anywhere from 150 to 200. So what I highlighted for you there is just what applies to the board itself. And then if we highlight this section, this is going to be our sidebar. Obviously we haven't coded the little boxes and all the fun stuff that you can do with a sidebar. Right now it's just showing you, hello, it exists. It's not fancy, but that will come later, so don't worry about that. Alright, so that's looking good. You can see how our table is set up, how it has all the different sections. And then we go back. And, oops. Okay. So that part is the sidebar right there. And then the last part you can see that isn't highlighted, the very last part right there, is the credit that you're going to put in. And that's also a call span 2, because it's going to go all the way down at the bottom of your board. It's going to cover the header section, and it's going to cover, the sidebar section, and it's going to cover the board section. So you have the first part that covers 2 columns, then 2 columns, then another part that covers both columns. Hopefully that's understandable. Now, you can see that we can see the background through our table. We don't want to do that. So in order to style the table, I put class equals main table. So now we have to go into our CSS and we have to style that. Alright, so what you do is class. If you have something that says class, you have to do dot and then the name of your class. And then you have brackets, and your property, and then the colon, and then what you want that property to do, and then another colon. Okay? So I want my color for my background to be the light color on the pattern that we just made. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to put that in as my background for our table. The next thing you want to do is add a width. Like I said, your width of your table is going to be the same as your banner, which is 900 pixels. And then I just looked at my little cheat sheet because I've skimmed a lot, and you don't really ever remember everything, but eventually you can write it all out. Especially doing a tutorial like this, you kind of forget things. So right now I'm adding a border. You don't always have to have a border. You could just put border colon 0 pixel, but I put border colon 2 pixels solid and number 000000, which is black. So you can see my black border, and you can see that we now have a solid background on our table, which is very useful. You can also add padding if you don't like how that everything is really close to the border. So if you put padding colon, say 10 pixels, you would get some space. So next you want to go to forum control, create new category, test category, create new forum, test forum. Obviously you can tell I name it the same thing every time. Then I like to fill in a little fake text. Text will go here, really boring, not all that exciting. Just copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it, copy it. And then I like to supply them with a little navigation. So I'm going to teach you how to do a navigation. So you do div class, and then you can name it anything you want. I'm going to name it DESC links. And then I'm going to add my HTML for my links. And I'm going to link back to RPGD. Link, copy, paste. My computer froze right here, so please bear with me. And it copied it twice, so delete. There we go. Link 1. And you can add all of the links right next to each other. You don't need to make a break because that's something I'm going to style in. So you just put them all right next to each other. And that's something you're going to learn to style them later. So right now they might look a little bit weird, but that's how we want them. And then you want to set up your forum so that everyone can read it and that it shows all topics. That's really important. And then if you want to allow guests to reply to topics, that's often very useful because sometimes people post questions or stuff like that. And there we go. So now we go and look at it, and you have that set up. And that is our first step. And everything looks good. One thing I'm going to change is I'm going to make this row 4 instead of styling it myself. So if I make that row 4, that's something that's already in the CSS to start with. And you can see how I got that color that matches everything else. So if you want to make sure that everything matches, you want to use pre-existing properties. I'll go more into that later, but that's just something to know for future reference. And I think that's all we're going to do in this section. Background's very important. You can really do some creative things with the background to make your skin stand out.